So one thing that this show has done better than anybody is monitor the developments of the Aaron Rodgers whereabouts when he missed 2 practices in the offseason. And you're probably thinking, why are you guys so hung up on this? Why are you guys so obsessed with this story? Well, because we really don't care about the WNBA. That's why. All right.
I mean, if we're being honest, I mean, it may hurt your feelings or offend some of you, but if we're really being honest, Aaron Rodgers' whereabouts were much more interesting.
He's riding on the back of a camel, smoking a bong in Egypt or whatever he's doing, and everybody's out there upset about the fact that he's upset about the fact that he's is that Darth
Aaron,
Vader?
is that you? Hey, Rod, is that you?
So, Aaron Rodgers has finally spoken a little bit more about it. Now, there was this report that came out that he was upset that Robert Saleh used the term unexcused.
Absolutely.
That was sort of the issue he had. But Rodgers was recently on with Pardon My Take, and he explained just sort of his view on the whole situation. Let's take a listen.
The thing that I think people don't understand is that when I was in the NFC North and playing for that team years ago, there used to be a real thing called minicamp where it was you had one of them usually. Sometimes it was right after the draft, but either way, it was 5 practices in 3 days: Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So 2 practices on Friday, 2 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. And now it's not mini camp. They can arbitrarily put a tag on whatever week of OTAs they want. So this is the mini camp week, which makes it somehow more mandatory than the other weeks. But it was an OTA schedule. That's how it's how words can be a little deceiving from time to time. You can make a story out of the fact that I missed a mini camp when it was really 2 OTA days.
Right. Interesting.
That came to the first 10.
I mean,
doesn't A-Rod play on words like I am immunized versus I have gotten my shots and have been, cleared to play? I mean, he would know best about the missing, the terminology, true terminology of words and stuff like that. Listen, I don't think it matters what people fail to understand about where mini camps are versus OTAs, Jonas. I think in this scenario, what makes it interesting and the reason why he's trying to justify it is for the simple fact that he was missing during practices that the organization wanted all their players there participating. And again, when you have these practices, the most important part of the practice is the quarterback getting his timing and his reps in with the offensive coordinator and with the players around him, his offensive line, his receivers, timing on that, communication, lingo of the offense, all those things. Oh, well, he knows all those things. He has all that set up. Well, what about everybody else? See, that's the thing where it's like Aaron Rodgers is in a great place. He's a veteran. He knows how to prepare in the offseason. He's one of those guys that's one of the greatest to ever do it. That's fine. But what about everybody else? This is not – if Patrick Mahomes went to Egypt on a trip and missed 2 days of mandatory mini camp, whatever he wants to call them, OTAs, whatever he wants to call them, if he missed those days, do you think that it would have been a big deal to the media that Patrick Mahomes missed 2 days?
Not as big of a deal.
It would not even be close.
Yeah.
And you know why? You want to know why? Because an explanation would have came from Andy Reid that put the whole thing to bed. And if by chance, let's just say there's some sensibility here where, you know what, Patrick Mahomes, just imagine this, guys. Patrick Mahomes actually says, I'm going to Egypt. It's planned for this day. I'll miss 2 mini camp days. two mandatory days, whatever it may be. But I'm going to be in Egypt at this point in time. Just seems like it's kind of like, A-Rod, if you didn't want people to trip out about it, just tell us ahead of time. Just tell us ahead of time. Hey, Robert Saleh, if you know that Aaron Rodgers is going to miss 2 mandatory camps that you're going to say after the fact, by the way, that they were unexcused, just say it ahead of time. What is the problem with putting it out there ahead of time before you get there, right? It's like, don't tell me I have this short runway after I'm putting the wheels on the ground of the runway to land. What do you mean I'm going to run out of runway? Could you have told me that while I was in the air? Maybe I'm going to go to a different airstrip. Maybe I'm going to handle this situation differently. What are you telling me now that the wheels are on the ground? The story touched down, and you're trying to maneuver out of the way of the story once it hit. It just doesn't make sense. So while you're trying to sound like an intellectual, and which you are, I'm not taking anything away from your intelligence, and neither from Xerxes either. All I'm saying is, why not have handled it in a way where it did not turn into a dramatic situation? That's all I'm saying.
So here's my theory on the Rodgers situation. I still think there is a large portion of the media. I still think there's a large portion of the public who still has not and people could try and say, oh, this has got nothing to do with it. Well, it's residuals. Like, there's still stuff left over from the immunized conversation and his use of that instead of, well, he wasn't forthright with us. So it's like, okay, well, I'm sorry you didn't catch it when he said it, and he kind of beat you at your own game. That's where I think a lot of this started. And then when it came back to the, well, does he want to play or does he not want to play? And, was he being reckless? There were seeds planted that have just grown. And Rodgers hasn't really tried to cooperate. Instead, he's looked at it and gone, all right, screw the media. I don't like the fact that they're as intrusive as they are, so here's what I'm going to do. If they're going to find something out, they'll find it out, but they're not going to find it out for me. They're going to find it out on my terms.
It's the wrong approach.
It could be, but I think that's what part of this is. I think he is.
It's the wrong approach.
He's just distancing himself from letting anybody know too much about him, knowing they're going to find out eventually. But he plays the mystery game.
That is the point, Jonas.
I know.
If it weren't stories that turned into the way they turn into them. Which, by the way, did you catch the shade he threw at Green Bay, by the way? Did you catch that?
Oh, the other team in the NFC North.
Did you caught that?
Okay, so I don't know if that was shade or if he's saying that because Big Cat, who's on the podcast, is a Bears fan. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I don't know.
He could have said the name of the team. He could have said the name of the team. I mean, dude, those were some really, really impactful years for you, my guy. I mean, you could have said your team. Anyway, I thought it was shade. But again, you're Aaron Rodgers. You're always in the media. Clearly, you've made a point to make your appearances in the media and do things on your own time, your own way. Great, no problem there. Again, as it applies to your team, can we drive that point home? Like, maybe you're okay with handling the media because of what they've done to you, or maybe the media wants to stick it to you or whatever it may be, and there's this personal thing between you and the media where you want them to find out on your own terms and this, that. Jonas, it's considered to be the ultimate team sport. For once, if that is indeed the way that he is approaching this and the way he's thinking about it, I used this word earlier in the show. Just like Sirianni needs to exercise a little humility with Jalen Hurts, Aaron Rodgers needs to exercise a little humility and understanding the impact that this can have on his team. On his team. It's not so much how you feel about it, because of the way you're handling it and the way you want to do things with the media. It's about how it may impact your team. How many questions in that locker room did those players get about Aaron Rodgers during that minicamp? And how much confusion could that possibly create as that storyline continues to be a major part of this season? Not the fact that he missed, but the fact that he's Aaron Rodgers in the way that he handles things with the media. That's what he needs to be thinking about. And while you're telling people what they may be misunderstanding or missing in the explanations that he's giving, maybe you're missing the explanation that I'm giving right now, that you actually need to think about your actions as it applies to what you're doing and how it impacts your team is what's most important, is what should be most important.
He likes to keep it vague. You know,
okay,
likes to keep everybody guessing, man.
All right, there you go. Light it up, smoke it up. You know what I mean? Roll it up. Inhale, exhale.
It is two pros.
Don't take it too seriously. Don't take it too personally. It's all good.